phrase.
This is where I got famous in your database from my clients.
There you go. I love it. So we, I guess the way we look at that is, we really focus and specialize on video.
Yes.
I think video is kind of like a huge deal right now. It's
Very
only going to continue getting bigger. And so what we do is we help an agent get comfortable on camera, because
Yes.
that tends to be kind of number one for most of them.
Yes.
Some of them have already started, but most of them need to get comfortable. Mm-hmm. And then once they're comfortable, the camera is just a tool. So there's all kinds of things you can do with it. We help them come up with some strategies, some ideas for marketing themselves, especially using Facebook. We do a ton of Facebook ads. That's working really, really well for us right now.
Very cool.
And so, basically we're working with these agents to get comfortable on camera, come up with a strategy for video, and then use it on Facebook.
Awesome. So I'm sure there's a lot of realtors that can use your help.
Seems like it, yeah.
And the bigger thing is I know you've been doing this long enough where you have a few issues, a few pet peeves, right?
Yeah.
That you see a lot of people doing.
Sure.
A lot of your clients or potential clients doing. What are some of those things that you could share with the audience? And this is going out to people around the planet. So
Sure.
We may never see them in our backyard of St. Louis, but what are things that they could be or probably should be doing that would make a huge difference for their marketing business?
Sure. So I think a lot of marketers would probably say similar things, because this probably applies to any industry. But number one would be consistency. And I think that is just completely across the board messed up by a lot of small businesses in general, but real estate agents as well.
Sure.
And what I mean by that is that marketing generally works because you are giving people a chance to get to know you before they commit to working with you, right?
Yes.
And then I have a lot of small businesses that they tend to have an attitude that's kind of the opposite. So they think, hey, I sent flyers out once or twice. I didn't get a bunch of calls, so I'm not going to send any more flyers out, right?
Right.
Or I did a bunch of mail. I sent out 2 rounds of mail, and I only got 1 lead, and I stopped doing it. And I try to make the analogy, yeah, it's like...
Don't do that!
Right? It's like going on a single date and expecting a proposal right afterwards, right? Like, you got to give people a chance to get to know you. And so, they spend money on this one thing for 2 months, doesn't work, quote unquote, right? Then they go to the next thing for 2 more months, that doesn't work. And they just keep blowing through money and burning money when they should have just kept doing the first thing. And I don't know what the numbers would be, but I would say that in a lot of cases, and probably even the majority, if they were to just stick with it, in the long term they would see a decent ROI, right? So I think that's probably number one in terms of pet peeves, is just people giving up on things before they've had enough time to really work.
And is there how much time is the right time? Because I know that comes up a lot too. It's like,
Sure.
How much time is a long time? A year, 4 years, 3 years, what?
Yeah, I think reasonably within 6 months, if something hasn't started to show a healthy ROI, you can move on from it. I think in most cases, I have not seen people wait 6 months, right? So most of the time when they're complaining, it's something they only did a couple times or for a couple, we call them touches, right? So the rule of thumb used to be you needed 7 touches, and so that means 7 different exposures to your business or your brand for someone to respond or to sign up for something.
Right.
I really think with digital marketing, that's probably become more like 15 touches, because
at least double.
Yeah, we see it's over 5,000 advertisements a day. Every time you're scrolling through
That
Facebook,
is crazy.
So every couple seconds you're seeing another ad, right? Yeah.
Always. On your phone.
Everywhere.
Everywhere. And now the stuff just pops up automatically. Even if you have your settings set a certain way, it's still going to come up.
Absolutely.
So a little bit more longevity, at least at least 6 months. You mentioned ROI. What type of ROI do you like to benchmark or have people think about for any type of marketing expense? So
I think the ROI that you're looking for, really depends on what you're doing. I think shooting for a 5 times or 6 times ROI is kind of a ratio I hear in real estate a lot. But I really think that a part of it that gets overlooked is return on time invested.
Yes.
And, a lot of small business owners understand time is money. Money is time in a lot of ways. We're basically exchanging our time for money when we work, right? So there are a lot of things that people do that they might see a nice return on the money they invest, but then they're also putting a bunch of time in. They're not thinking about that, right? So I think that's another important consideration, is how much time did you have to put into this? I think that's where video can be really, really powerful.
Yes.
Because you can measure things like how many hours your video is consumed in total now. These are things we can track. So looking at it from a perspective of how long did it take me to make this video versus how many minutes of view time I got on it. Everything in marketing now is about attention. We can track attention. You can buy attention. That's what you're doing when you pay for an ad, right? And so I think that kind of ratio is also important. So if I can put a video out that took me 30 minutes to make, and I can put $10 behind it, and I can get 10 hours of view time on it, like that's a huge branding move, right?
That's awesome.
So it's helping with my branding. So that's why I think sometimes ROI can be frustrating, because it kind of simplifies things to too much of an extent. And I think that right now, because of something like Facebook or YouTube or these places where you can put your content and people can consume it, you have a bigger opportunity to brand yourself long term, right? So if you let go of that kind of initial, like, oh, I got to get $5 back for every dollar I spend, and you think more long term in terms of, am I building an audience?
Right.
Are there people who are starting to hear about me regularly and who I'm staying top of mind with? And those are the people, I think, that you look 1 or 2 years down the road and their ROI is 10 or 20x because they were thinking long term.
Right. Well, I'm thinking long term, and even just stick it with itness, right?
Yeah, of course.
And that's something where, whatever you're doing, stay consistent. And that's not an easy thing to do, especially with the way technology changes.
Oh, yeah.
But once you do these videos and you put this content out there, you're building your brand. You're staying consistent. It's a lot easier once you get the ball in motion to keep it going versus just stop, change, start all the time.
I mean, I think we think a lot about in our business habits now. When you think about it's about 60 days to really cement a habit into your life, right? And almost no matter what it is, once you've done it for 60 days, it sticks. Even if it was the most painful thing you could imagine at first. And I think that really...
It's not so bad at day 60.
Right. I mean, 2 months, and then all of a sudden now something you hated is just a part of your routine, right?
It sure is.
So it's a pretty good trade-off. So I think that, especially with video, that's kind of the way to think about it, is if you're going to start doing these things, if you're going to start using these tools, give it 60 days, and you will find that after 60 days, you can't almost not do it anymore. It's like working out, right? You do it for 60 days, you're going to probably
It's kind of hard to go back the other way.
Yeah, you're going to feel compelled to keep doing it.
Right. It almost hurts not to.
Exactly, yeah.
It's strange like that. That's cool. What are other things, ideas, people, you wish they would do this more around their marketing?
I think the other one that really stands out is choosing a niche in your marketing. So, and I get it, because almost everyone we've tried to go through these exercises with, where we define, a specific niche for their business.
And this is not alone to realtors, by the way. This is any
Everybody.
type of business, marketing client. I see a lot of people shaking their head in the background, right? They're just going, yes, my consulting client, same thing.
Oh, yeah.
But say more about what you're saying.
Well, yeah, so the idea, I think a lot of people have an attitude that, well, if I pick a niche, if I talk to a specific group of people as opposed to everyone, I'm going to get less business because there's more people in that general group, right?
Yes.
But the problem is that anytime we try to go after everyone, when we're a small company, we can't compete with the big guys, right? So there's always someone bigger that has more money that is going to win if we just try to go after everyone.
Yes.
Plus, I think a lot of small business owners, they miss the point kind of behind the point, which is, not only are you going to ultimately get more business if you target a niche, but you're also going to get more of the kinds of people you want to work with, right? So if you say, I work with anybody, well, then anybody is going to come to the door, and some of those are going to be a great fit, and some aren't going to be a great fit, right? If you pick a niche and you talk to a specific group of people and you really try to draw that particular kind of person in, you're going to have a better fit. You're going to have clients you enjoy working with on a regular basis, so not just here and there, but every single client's going to be a good fit for you.
Right.
And ultimately, and this is the part that's hard to understand at first, is that you're going to have people knocking on the door because they're going to feel like you are the right person for them, right?
Yes.
It's going to feel like it's a fit like a glove. You have similar interests, similar passions. You're speaking their language, so to speak. And we've seen this in our business. Ever since we really focused on real estate, it's funny because it's not only do we get a lot of real estate agents that are reaching out to us and saying, hey, I need your help, which is not really something that happened to us before about a year ago. And we started really...
Well, I remember you guys came here even to Medici, and it was a little bit different pitch. You still knew what you wanted to do marketing-wise.
Sure.
But it wasn't necessarily as tight on the realtor focus that you
on the real estate, yeah.
Right.
And then the funny kind of additional side effect that we've at least experienced is that we actually have more people from other industries also reaching out to us, right? So there's so few businesses that are communicating this clearly, that are so focused on a niche, that when you do it, you get people even that aren't a part of that niche that are saying, oh, that resonated. I got the idea that you were really focused, and I appreciate that. Can you help me? So you end up having to say no to some people. But we get more leads from businesses that are outside of real estate now, when we're focused on real estate,
right,
than we would have before we focused on real estate, ironically, right?
And then so do you have referral partners set up?
Exactly, yeah. So we have people that we can say, hey, you're not quite the right fit for us. We have somebody that is a great fit for you. And then obviously they appreciate that referral because now they're getting customized service as opposed to just reaching out to a generic marketing company.
Yeah, and I have to give a shout out to two people, two ladies. One, Ellen Moore of Super Type Brand, because she did a webinar last week. She's out in Colorado.
Okay.
But she helped me with my brand, just get it focused on this niche of people.
Good.
And it doesn't mean you have to not accept business or take business or refer business.
Sure.
Especially as a realtor, it's so easy to refer things, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's like, well, I'm not going to go try and sell for a client here in St. Louis if I'm way out in Chesterfield when I can do it, because that's not the highest and best use of my time. And or it could be, but I don't know if that's the highest and best use of your time. And so what she said was the same thing on brand, and then we had a Medici Marketplace meeting just yesterday, mm-hmm. and we had Sherry Wayner. She's been focused on brand and marketing and things like that forever.
Sure.
And PR, and she said a lot of things very similar. Focus on your brand, get that tighter, then you can maneuver from other ways. And you're a perfect example of that.
Sure.
You're getting leads from industries that you're not focusing on at all,
right.
But just because of the exposure, and maybe a realtor gives you a referral that way. It's like, oh yeah, call Nick and Vanessa.
Yeah.
But you're like, oh well, yeah, you're not a fit for us. Here you go over here.
Exactly.
And for your clients, realtors, so easy to give that referral to somebody else and take a small piece of the commission structure.
Sure. Because for a real estate agent, obviously the more they can refer, the more connected they are to their community, the more referrals they get in return, so that's kind of a no-brainer. So I think, I really think that is something, choosing your niche, focusing on it, focusing on your brand. This is the first time, in my opinion, in kind of human history, that this kind of communication has been available to small businesses,
Yes.
If you think about like video and using video, which is by far the most kind of powerful. Yeah, there you go, right? And you're doing both audio, video. I love it,
right. Doing a podcast and a video right now.
Might as well combine them, right? So, and I think that's one, like video itself, sure, big businesses have used TV commercials for decades now, and
sure.
That's part of how they got dominant and stayed dominant, right? They're constantly top of mind.
Yes.
And that's how they do it, and I think that this is now, the playing field's really been leveled by the fact that we all walk around with an HD camera in our pocket, right? Yes. And so we're in a phase where it is kind of a race, and the first 10% or so of small businesses that really embrace that and start, I get, it's a pet peeve of mine when people in marketing talk about tell your story, because it's such a kind of a generic statement, right? But to use that generic statement, it's like now you can tell your story in a
very easily, in a much more dynamic way.
Yeah, and for free. You can get your phone out, record something, put it on Facebook. It's a couple hundred views, and that doesn't cost you anything.
It's a sunk cost.
Yeah.
So why not use it?
Absolutely. So
I think that's you already paid for it.
Yeah.
Now, you and I talked about some things earlier. We may combine them in the future, but I know that we here at Medici have a live real estate networking event for realtors. We do that on the second Thursdays, not Tuesdays, second Thursdays of the month, unless there's a holiday, of course.
Okay.
That's led by Michael Watka, who's a local residential commercial property manager here.
Cool.
Also does some transactions, but he leads that, and he just wanted to stay networked in a face-to-face type of scenario. Mm-hmm. And you mentioned you offer something similar that we'd love to have come over here to Medici.
Sure.
But right now, where are you doing it at?
So right now it's called the Real Marketing Breakfast, and it happens the first Wednesday of every month from 8 to 9:30 a.m. at the Brentwood Community Center, which is at 2505 South Brentwood.
Yes. So not too far.
Yeah, so not bad. It's pretty fairly central locations where our BNI chapter meets as well.
Oh,
so that's
perfect.
kind of why we set up there. And the focus of our event is